Hi, and welcome back to Grieving Greatly. I'm Jen, and I'm so grateful you've chosen to spend this time with me. If this is your first time listening, welcome. This podcast is a place where we talk honestly about grief, not just the sadness, but the love, the fear, the guilt, the hope, and the incredible ways loss changes us. Today's episode feels especially personal because I don't want to talk about the person we lost. I want to talk about the person grief made us become. I don't think anyone warned me about that. People warned me about crying, about anniversaries, about birthdays, about missing Harry. But nobody ever said, Jen, one day you'll look in the mirror and realise you're not the same person anymore. That was frightening because for years I wasn't only grieving my son, I was grieving me. There is something that happens after profound loss. It doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it happens so gradually you don't even notice. Until one day someone says, "You've changed." And you realise they're right. You have. Maybe before your loss you laughed more easily. Maybe you trusted people more. Maybe you worried less. Maybe you were spontaneous. Maybe you believed terrible things happened to other people. Maybe you believed life was predictable, safe, fair, and then grief arrived. And suddenly nothing felt certain anymore. I remember thinking so many times, I just want my old life back. I did say it to myself hundreds of times. I wanted the old Jen, the one before Harry died, the one who believed children grew up, the one who planned holidays, the one who imagined grandchildren, the one who thought tomorrow was guaranteed. I wanted her back. But no matter how desperately I wished, she wasn't coming back. And that realisation broke my heart. Because it felt like grief had taken two people, Harry and me. I think so many grieving people secretly ask themselves, what's wrong with me? I'm not as patient. I don't enjoy the things I used to. I don't fit in with my old friends. I'm anxious. I'm quieter. I'm more emotional. I'm different. And yes, you are. Because grief changes the brain. It changes the nervous system. It changes our priorities. And it changes how safe the world feels. It changes the questions we ask. It changes what matters. Of course you're different. How could you not be? One of the greatest myths about healing is that healing means becoming the person you were before. I just don't believe that's true anymore. I actually think healing is learning to become someone new. Not someone better, not someone worse, someone different. For a long time, I fought that. I spent years trying to find the old me, trying to get back, trying to become who I used to be. Then one day, I realised something. I wasn't going backwards. Life was asking me to go forwards. That doesn't mean leaving Harry behind. It means taking him with me. There is a big difference. Harry changed my life, but he also changed me. He made me more compassionate. He made me listen differently. He made me notice hurting people. He made me understand that everyone is carrying something. Would I ever choose the way I learnt those lessons? Never, not for 1 second. But I can't deny they became part of me. Today, Harry's Helping Hands exists because Harry existed. This podcast exists because Harry existed. Every grieving parent I sit beside, every conversation I have, every person who feels less alone exists because one little boy changed his mum forever. Not because I wanted that story, but because that's the story I now carry. Sometimes people ask if you could go back to who you were before, but it's an impossible question. Because of course I'd do anything to have Harry back. Anything. But I also know the woman sitting here today wouldn't exist. My other children wouldn't exist. The counsellor wouldn't exist. The podcast wouldn't exist. The empathy wouldn't exist. And the understanding wouldn't exist. Grief didn't just wound me, it reshaped me. And maybe grief has changed you too. Maybe you even notice beauty more. Maybe sunsets mean something different. Maybe children catch your attention now. Maybe you hug people longer. And maybe you've become gentler. Or maybe you've become stronger. Maybe you've become softer. Or maybe you've become both. We spend so much time talking about what grief takes. And it does take so much. Dreams, plans, certainty, relationships, parts of ourselves. But every now and then, very quietly, grief also plants something. Compassion, wisdom, patience, perspective, depth. Not because grief is a gift. Please hear me, I do not believe grief is a gift. I would give every lesson back to have Harry, every single one. But I also won't pretend the lessons don't exist. There's a beautiful Japanese art form called Kintsugi when pottery breaks. They don't hide the cracks, they fill them with gold. The object isn't valuable because it never broke. It's beautiful because it was broken and lovingly repaired. I often think grief is like that. We carry cracks. Some days they ache, some days they shine, and they become part of our story. Not something to hide. If you're listening today and wondering, will I ever be me again? The answer is probably not. But maybe you'll become someone you haven't met yet. Someone who still laughs, still dreams, still loves, still misses them every single day. Someone who carries grief without grief carrying them. And before we finish, I'd like you to think about one question. Not who was I before they died, but who am I becoming because I loved them? Because those are very different questions. One keeps us looking backwards, and the other gently invites us forwards. Harry will always be a part of who I am, not because I refuse to move on, but because love changes us. Real love always has. Whether someone lives or dies, love leaves fingerprints on our hearts. Harry's fingerprints are all over mine. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this episode resonated with you, perhaps share it with someone who feels like they've lost themselves in grief. Maybe they'll discover they haven't disappeared, they're simply becoming. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You don't have to become the person you were. You only have to become the person you're growing into. Because grief may change who you are, but love will always be part of who you're becoming. Thank you for listening to Grieving Greatly. I spent years trying to find the person I was before grief, and one day I realised she wasn't lost. She had simply grown into someone new, and Harry had been shaping her all along. And if this week you notice a ladybug or a turtle moving slowly along, let it remind you that hard days still move. Slowly, gently, one moment at a time. This episode is for Harry and for every life deeply loved. I'm here with you, and I'll be here with you in the next episode. You will always be enough for me, and you will never be too much. And just a gentle reminder, if today brought up anything difficult, please reach out for support. You can contact Grief Australia on 1800 642 066 or Lifeline Australia on 131114, or reach out to me directly on 0431 212 575. Thank you.